Good Sunday evening, everybody. Welcome into our Trade to Black podcast Sunday night version. I'm Shad Dales. Thanks for checking in. Hope you all had a great weekend and happy belated 420. Hope you had a great day yesterday. Lots of stuff going on, including from our president, Biden, and VP Kamala Harris, who took to social media yesterday that had some interesting comments to say that they are committed for reform. Is there some truth to that? Who knows as well? Dave Portnoy and the Barstool Sports team, they're getting involved into cannabis and THC beverages. So lots to unpack, lots of news that happened, obviously, all week long, and let's jump into it. So let's welcome in TDR co-host Anthony Varrell. Good to see you. Hope you had a good weekend. How was the golf game?
Well, it was good. It's good. I was on the range at like 7 a.m. this morning, got around in, and now we're here.
Good time to play golf in Florida. Gets to be a little hot and spicy, I would think, the next couple of weeks, is it not?
No, about a month it'll get hot.
Yeah. Sunday night version. We're actually going to start doing this every Sunday night. Let's welcome in TDR lead financial writer and analyst, the professor, William McNarland, aka Bill McNarland. Good to see you. How are things?
Oh, things are good. Had a good weekend. Didn't get the hockey results I was hoping for, but it's still early in the NHL playoffs.
I did. Panthers.
They look good today, that's for sure. But what are you a Leafs fan?
Yeah, and the Leafs just got spanked by Boston on Saturday. It was an embarrassment.
Can you imagine that media in Toronto if they exit out in the first round again? Because I definitely think that's going to happen.
Well, do or die tomorrow night.
Do or die, yes. And I think Mr. Sheldon Keefe, if he's out of the first round, he's going to be looking for a job. All right, gents. Lots to unpack as we recap the week as a whole. We were everywhere, Anthony, over the last 2 weeks, but it's good to get back in the studios and have some consistency. So into the wire, that begins our first segment, headlining all the biggest headlines in cannabis for the week. And let's begin with our usual hot topic involving rumors around yesterday's big date for the industry, 420 and safe banking, where, as I said off the top, President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris took to social media to express their commitment to cannabis law reform. Both leaders posted on social media at 420 yesterday. So, Anthony, you think there's some substance here, or is this just politicians being politicians? Look at that smile.
So, it's good. I don't even know where I want to start here.
Yeah.
The president of the United States was tweeting about 420 at 420.
Yeah. Think he even knew what he was typing? That's his team.
I mean, I'm just gonna be honest with you what I'm thinking. Like, it's time to stop being so fucking cute about this. Like, it really is. Like, we're talking about people's lives. We're talking about the industry that we all work in. We're talking about incremental growth of the industry, like taking people out of jail. Like, Kamala Harris got community noted on Twitter. Let's not be vague. She put 1,900 people in jail in her career as an AG for cannabis offenses. I mean, we're past the theatrics. The theatrics was the Fat Joe meeting at the White House. The theatrics was Biden mentioning it at the State of the Union. Like, sure, it's great. Like, they think cannabis is cute, but it's time to put pen to paper and it's time to get something done, because the theatrics are not going to get us anywhere until they actually take action. The HHS gave us 255 pages of data and science basically saying reschedule this thing. People have heard there are concrete levers that have been pulled that are saying reschedule this thing. Joe Biden has the power to call up the DEA and tell them, guys, reschedule this and get it done. It's time. So yes, it's great. Sure, it's all fun and games and it's lighthearted and cute, but like, I'm sick of it. Like, do something. Like, move us forward.
Well, the reaction from our audience, John Lee writes, well put, Anthony. You guys rock. Happy Burns. Well said, AV. G Money, we'll get into that in just a moment. But to Anthony's point, Bill, I know that you've watched a lot of the content that we've been pushing out for the last couple of weeks as you've been putting this into our newsletter, and you saw our trip through in Washington. But if you're a politician, like, we saw it firsthand. There's just a lot of talk, no action. But do you believe there could be some change knowing the popularity that this industry does attract right now.
Well, I think, first of all, I can't imagine the last administration or the one even previous to that were Democrats. I can't imagine them tweeting on 420. It just shows how much things have changed over the last 5-10 years. And so that is, I think, to try to attract the younger voters. And you have to follow through. You just can't speak. So I think because they feel the pressure in an election year, I think this is a good sign of how seriously they're taking this matter.
Yeah, it's actually a good point when you factor in this is something they would not have done. I think I can't remember any memory. Has the president ever pushed something out on 420 in the past, Anthony?
No, and I mean, let me take a step back. I'm not speaking out of a place of I'm not speaking from a place of frustration, as there's not a single doubt in my mind that rescheduling is coming. We've had several things tell us that that's probably going to be the case, but it's like come on, do it already. It's only cute to talk about for ever so often.
Yeah, one thing I want to bring up before we get into our next topic, it's a good question from G Money, who writes, can you guys do a show down the road to help us understand how Schedule 3 or safer facilitates uplisting? From what I understand, obviously 280E will go away overnight if it is rescheduled to a Schedule 3. But from what I'm hearing as far as uplisting, there's no real timeline that's basically set up. I do think that there are certain exchanges from what we heard this week are listening right now. But I think a lot of that is still 12 to 18 months out, if I'm correct. I don't know if you heard anything different, Anthony, but I think that's pretty much on par.
Yeah, I mean, like we had said on the update spaces, and this is probably something that we do need to get more of a handle on.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll probably reach out to some people from NYSE, NASDAQ, Shadwell as well tomorrow, people from Charles Schwab, to actually get a subject matter expert on this to come on the show and set the record straight.
Yeah.
But from what we heard in our meetings, I mean, there have been conversations at the New York Stock Exchange and at NASDAQ that have alluded to Schedule 3 allowing the conversation to happen around uplisting.
Yeah.
But they're still not really sure fundamentally and mechanically how that could work.
Yeah, agreed. I put some feelers out there. Eric Berlin from Denton's, probably the most well-respected law firm in cannabis across the country, reached out to him on Friday. So he's looking to come on either later this week or this upcoming week or the week after. And he has a wealth of information pertaining to rescheduling, as well as understanding a lot of that stuff with regards to uplisting. So we'll keep you guys all posted. Let's now shift. Cannabis Beverages going mainstream, where Dave Portnoy and the crew at Barstool Sports now getting involved in cannabis and more specifically THC beverages. You were saying some comments on the podcast before we went live here tonight as to how they're getting in front of this and really how beverages is really going to be, I think, the behemoth of the industry in due time, because it's not product on air that you're smoking. It's around beverages the same way big alcohol is. And you're going to probably see a lot of these brands like the Barstools and other sports podcasts getting more and more involved in this, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely interesting to see. It doesn't surprise me that a beverage is one of the first big media partnerships that we see inked. The Barstool portfolio of podcasts such as Foreplay, Spit and Chicklets, Bussin' with the Boys, they're going to integrate the products into their podcast moving forward. The fact that the form factor is a beverage versus a smokable or an edible doesn't surprise me. You can sit there and have it on the desk. It can get brand association. I've always been a big proponent of beverages. I do think that beverages are going to be top 3 as far as form factors go in cannabis products. After digging into this, though, there's a lot to be determined here, I guess, in terms of the actual product and how far it needs to go. So just from an economics perspective, you go on Cann's site, they brand themselves as a social tonic. Awesome-looking product, decent-looking flavors. They've got their products as the regular dose, a high boy, which is 5 milligrams of THC, and then a low boy, which is a 1 milligram dosing of THC. So the high boys, we'll use this as an example. It's $107 for a 16-pack. That puts you at about $6.17 per beverage.
Wow.
Or $6.75 per 5 milligram dose of THC.
Does that make
If
sense?
if you were to go on Sunburn's website, and I'm just going to use them as an example, you can buy live rosin gummies, a 10-pack at a 10 milligram dose per dose.
Okay.
And I think it's $26 for a 10-pack, or $2.60 per dose. And it's double the strength. So these beverages, while they do look interesting, they do get my eye. There's no way in hell I'm paying $6.75 for a 5 milligram dose of THC.
Unless
And
you
I
had a
don't think the masses are either.
Yeah.
If I was at a concert,
Yes.
if I was at the Dolphin game, would I pay $6.75 from a bar for a 5 milligram THC beverage? Yeah. I mean, without a doubt, I'd pay $10.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, that dosing and the dollar cost for that just, to me, doesn't really make sense right now. But it's going to be great to see. And I mean, if I was an investor in Cann, which I'm not, I would be salivating looking at what Stool President and Barstool did with High Noons.
That's a good
and I
point.
mean, lightning always doesn't strike twice, but I would be willing to bet you're going to see a significant amount of traction from the integration of that product into the Barstool platform.
Yeah. I was watching ESPN today with hockey and then baseball, and I'm just looking, it's just outside of, like, the live sporting event. It's just very much wallpaper content. But if you're going to captivate an audience, and this is the future of sports media, and I think branding, and why not get in front of it? Bill, I know you've done a ton of research, and you're actually, one of the things that we're going to be launching is a full extensive index regarding many beverage companies across the world, for that example, mid-cap companies that are actually producing real revenue dollars. But I have to ask, like, where have you followed much about the whole beverage landscape within the cannabis space, and where you see this basically growing, and what are some of the hurdles they have to overcome, as to Anthony's point?
Yeah, I'm quite bullish on it. And I think it's also because in Canada's kind of a framework where we've had legalization for about 7 years, so we can spot some trends that maybe will come to the US later. In Canada right now, a 10 mcg serving of THC cannabis beverage is about $3 US.
Okay.
And there's about 50 different varieties that you can buy through the legal government stores. So it is really done quite well. And where I was really surprised for the first time to see the normalization, which has to come, I went to a cocktail party for finance professionals. The average age was about 50. And for the first time, I saw that they were serving not only alcoholic beverages, but also cannabis, THC beverages. And so it just showed how normalized it was becoming. And I think as that trend happens, as the cost of production comes down as well, I think this is a great area of interest.
I'm sure that was the topic of conversation probably at this event as well, because
you know what? No one said anything.
Really?
Yeah, because
it was that normalized.
I bet you they were all drinking and being like, I hope nobody notices, but I'm going to keep drinking this cannabis beverage versus the alcohol that was also served.
Sunday night, this is the TDR Traded Black podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales, along with Anthony Varrell and our lead analyst and financial writer, Bill McFarland. Bill, good to see you. We need to do more of this, right?
Yeah, happy to be here.
Smash that like button as usual. Leave lots of comments. As I've said before, more comments and more interaction that we have, the better chances that this content has going viral. And we all want cannabis to be top of mind and start picking up on the back end of YouTube's algorithm. So please leave comments, ask any questions, anything specifically you want to ask Bill. Feel free, as he's got a lot of great content teed up on our Baked In newsletter kicking off next week, tomorrow morning. More rumors pertaining to Washington. So make sure to subscribe to our Baked In newsletter. Next up, and this is an interesting one, is the, Sherrod Brown. And he is the chair of the Senate Banking Committee. And more importantly, and good news, he's backing the stablecoin bill, which, as we said earlier this week, could have safe banking added in due time. And Anthony, as I said, having Brown back the stablecoin bill is a very good thing for cannabis investors. You want to explain more?
Yeah, I mean, Sherrod Brown is the chair of the Senate Banking Committee. He brought the Safe Banking Act, actually, and he brought the Safe Banking Act to the Senate floor for a markup session last year. He's a friend of the cannabis industry. He's a friend of Safe. He's a very friendly party, and he's not been in favor of stable coins as well as crypto. up until now. So, I mean, seeing him speak out positively about this bill, potentially getting behind the bill, is very enticing, especially when we talk about SAFE potentially getting attached. I mean, I don't see why he would try to block that. Like I said on the spaces as well, I mean, we're going to also probably see Senator Warren flip from being pro-cannabis in this, from supporting SAFE in that instance to probably not supporting SAFE.
Why?
As I think her vitriol for the crypto industry supersedes her optimism for the cannabis industry. And I just don't see her being for that, the way that it's going to be done. But I do think that if this does get attached, this bill has been getting momentum, even though I was reading Roe this morning. It's getting a couple of knocks as it's potentially stifling innovation, as it's not going to allow for algorithmic stablecoins, which algorithmic stablecoins, you could argue, are the reason why things such as like Terra and Luna collapsed. But that's a whole different conversation. We can get Mark Cusco on to talk about. But I like the growth. I like the prospects here. Senator Brown is definitely a net positive. I'm definitely going to watch this very closely this week as it develops.
Don Murphy, if you're watching the podcast right now, let us know if Anthony's correct on Elizabeth Warren's stance on that, if she'll flip. But that'll be interesting to see if that does indeed happen. I hope that's not the case, but we need obviously more people supporting. But Bill, how much have you followed, I guess, this whole stablecoin bill? And do you see the chances of safe banking eventually being added to it?
You know, I'll tell you why I think it's getting broad coverage. Barron's is a very conservative financial journal that doesn't report on cannabis.
Okay.
They had a feature article this weekend about this subject and combining crypto and cannabis safe banking with the FAA bill on May 10th. And this showed me how much interest there is if they're starting to cover this in their demographic. So I think that is something quite positive to show the broad support for it.
Well, one can only hope, right? Chuck it along here on a Sunday night. Let's bring up next. And what is going on in Canada? I don't know what's going on up there, but it's different times, which I'm sure you can elaborate a little bit more, Bill. But there was information pertaining to the excise tax announced earlier this week. The Canadian Liberal government, they are notorious at just raising taxes, and more taxes. There's a friendly little carbon tax going on right now. So much backlash amongst Canadians everywhere. This is going to have a major impact on Canadians and businesses across the country. So can you explain maybe a little bit more as to what kind of impact more specifically it'll have on Canadian LPs with what was announced earlier this week?
Yeah, before I'd make comments about Canadian LPs, I would say that, all businesses in Canada are being challenged by increased taxation, which leads to less productivity. So that's all businesses across the board. With the excise tax is an old vehicle that's been around for about 125 years. And typically it gets added to new areas and rises in value. It doesn't get taken away. So one of the greatest examples is fuel. Fuel is considered a sin.
Yeah.
It's in the sin tax category. So we've had taxation on fuel since 1995 and on diesel since 1987. And because of this, gas prices in Canada are significantly higher than the US and even higher than Mexico. But if you look at alcohol excise taxes are increasing each year. There's two reasons for this. One, the price of beverages are going up because of inflation, so there's going to be more tax. But secondly, there's a double taxation where the excise tax, the rate of it increases by the rate of inflation. So you get hit twice. So inflation was 4.7. In the budget, they lowered it. They capped it at 2 for the next 2 years. But excise taxes in all categories are rising, not falling. So I just share that as a general trend, not specific to cannabis, but just what the current administration's view of taxes and excise taxes.
We're talking almost $1.90 a liter of gas right now for Canadians, is it not?
Yeah, so I live in the center of oil production in Alberta. And even though Alberta is the world's fourth largest producer of oil. I'm paying almost the same that you're paying right here in the center of it, living by the refineries.
It's crazy. I was in Detroit this morning. It was $2.89 a gallon, and there's 4 liters in a gallon. So do the math. 190 times 4 is a lot more than. But this is crazy. Like, I've even spoke to Canadians that are saying like it's over $7 for a loaf of bread. And that's just the cost of living. But it's an aging country. And right now there's a huge housing crisis as they brought in, I think, close to 500,000 immigrants just in the greater Toronto area in the past 12 months. And in Ontario alone, I think they built over 300,000 homes. So,
yeah. And the sad thing is, I don't think there is a solution. We have 5 political parties. I'm familiar with all of their mandates, and I'm not encouraged by any of them.
that's not promising. Hence the reason why I've got an immigration lawyer hired and I want to get to Southern Florida. Hey, big game going on tonight. Oilers Kings, game 1. Ben Lobin, go Oilers. Yes. Interesting series that'll be, that's for sure. Okay, let's move on quickly. And now the Empire State, the great state of New York, where the NYSOCM announced yesterday that the state this month is on track to do $10 million in revenue per week. And the way this tweet was actually structured almost sounded like this was a good thing. Another example, I think, as to how far this state got it wrong from the early days and still how much work needs to be done. Bill, you were saying before the podcast right now, it's estimated there's close to 2,000 black market dispensaries in Manhattan alone compared to only 100 legal dispensaries. These are jaw-dropping stats, to say the least. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, whoever. You know, it's a project. You know, when you look at this, there's other states that have rolled out successfully, and you almost kind of wish that they could just look and learn from the other states. But for some reason in this state, it's very challenging. And we've seen this in other areas too, not at the state level, but as an example, in the city level, New York City decided to give out bylaw advice using an AI chat box that was telling business owners to do illegal things. Their rollouts of these projects are questionable on the project management side.
We live in interesting times, don't we?
I mean, it was like clown show on display again, watching Hochul and Adams up there saying, we're putting the money together. We're going to put padlocks on these illegal dispensaries and start to enforce it. I mean, congratulations to New York on finally getting to 100 dispensaries. That's a feat in itself. But I mean, at the same time, like, you really think a padlock is and it's only a misdemeanor charge if you take bolt cutters and take the padlock off the door.
Yeah.
Like, it's madness. The good thing is her and Adams stood up there in real time saying that they're going to crack down on these illegal dispensaries. You're going to be able to see that in real time, because if they don't, and these stores just keep popping up and keep doing business, they're obviously completely talking out of both ends. So, I mean, it's put up or shut up. They've kind of boxed themselves in. But I mean, New York, like I said, I'm not even focused on it until we start to see it get kind of out of the gutter and get out of its own way with this botched rollout that it's had.
What is the population of New York? There's got to be more people in the state of New York than there is in Florida, is there not?
The state of New York or Manhattan?
State of New York. Like, when you think about $10 million in revenue per week,
that's nothing.
That's nothing. Like, medicinal alone in the state of Florida last month did $215 million. But an eye opener, to say the least. But
it was 20 million. 20 million in New York, 22 million in Florida.
Oh, so there's actually more people in Florida now. It's all those Canadians coming down here.
I know they're trying to clean this state up, but this process is still moving very, very slow, right, Anthony?
Yeah, very slow. But the thing is, like I said, you're going to see the results of these policy improvements in real time, or they are just full of it.
Yeah.
This is a very easy calculus. I mean, we walked up and down Manhattan. Like, there are signs and there are stores that say Jungle Boys and say Cookies and Stizzy on the outside that are not owned by Jungle Boys, Cookies, or Stizzy. They're rampant. So, I mean, unless we start to see them really retract they're just talking. They're not actually implementing any of these changes.
Yeah, there you go. New York City alone has 8.3 million people. All right, we're kicking things off tomorrow. Market took a little bit of a hit, I think, towards the end of last week, to say the least. But Bill, anything that you're watching, seeing as we head into Monday?
I think, something that was really encouraging was that we had some, we had some challenges globally with tension rising, but the market seemed fairly stable coming through it.
Yeah.
I think it could have been a lot worse compared to other conflicts that have happened before. So I just am interested to see where everything pans out.
Yeah. One of the things I think you're doing a lot of research on too, that we're actually going to start featuring within our newsletter, is like stuff that complements the cannabis industry. And I know that there's beverage industry that you are diving into right now, but the whole idea is to build an index, look at a lot of these companies that are doing minimum $25 million in revenue. And these are stocks that are publicly traded. I think a lot of investors are unaware of, because to your point, you're saying a lot of the banks don't see value in research anymore. And a lot of the times these companies gets lost through the cracks. So you maybe want to elaborate on some of the strategy and approach that you want to do pertaining to it.
Yes. So, and we're going to test it as it goes along. There's 10,000 small caps. So a small cap is defined as having a market cap between 250 million to $2 billion. There's 10,000 of them in the world that don't have research coverage right now. And these, to get to that size of a market cap, you have to have real revenue. So it's not surprising that many of these have, revenue of $1 billion plus. And so we found in beverage, there's a lot of exciting alcohol companies, but also in non-alcoholic brands as well. So we're excited just to look at these newer areas to see, can we find interesting small cap companies that aren't covered, and what we can find out. And maybe these are interesting investments that we can introduce on the show or talk about to see if our viewers are interested in looking at some of these opportunities.
Well said. And a lot of that information will be featured. Another reason why we want all of you to subscribe to our Baked In newsletter. And you're looking to launch this. I know there is some read activity that basically we're now featured on our website, but with regards to some of the beverage stuff, this is something you want to launch in the next week or two, correct?
Yeah. We're reaching out now to these companies to see if we can have conversations with them and to chat about what their plans are and their lack of research. And we'll report back, in the next week or two about the responses we're getting back.
So all tour viewers out there, if there are stocks that you're unaware of that actually have slipped through the cracks, that actually are good for you, the everyday investor, this is not investment advice, but we're going to provide some information regarding some specific companies. And it should be interesting to see some of the information that you're able to pull from that. But as usual, if you want to get access to that information and a lot of our equity research reports, again, subscribe to our Baked In newsletter. And before we go, a quick reminder, as usual, please smash that like button, leave lots of comments. We'd love to have lots of engagements. Any questions that you want to reach out to Bill pertaining to the industry, any financials on the background, he'd be more than happy to reach out. As usual, Anthony always providing his opinion towards the industry and what you expect. Great job, by the way, this week with some of the people that you were speaking to in Florida. But a lot of promising stuff. Hopefully it comes to fruition regarding some of these rumors that we're hearing. Right, Anthony?
Yeah, would be nice.
Yeah. All right. Let you guys go. Thanks, everybody, for checking in here on a Sunday night. And we'll see you back here tomorrow, 4 o'clock this week. Before we go, we've got an interesting guest. We can't say who it is yet, but he has given the verbal commitments. We'll have more information on Tuesday pertaining to that. So you'll want to listen. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
It'd be it's gonna be interesting.
Woo. All right. We'll let you go. Happy Sunday evening. Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching our latest podcast. Lots of momentum building. You guys getting all excited? Leave comments below. Again, we want to take this viral. Smash that like button and make sure to click on that bell for all notifications as we start to bring on bigger and bigger guests. Don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, the Baked In newsletter, by logging on to thedalesreport.com. And we want to take this viral, as I said, and make this community grow. So make sure to subscribe on that channel because we wouldn't be here without you. Thanks again, everyone, for watching.